sake here, we are live with Jason Storey, and this was not a planned stream. This was just us talking and saying we should do this. And now I am going to take a moment to share this on my Discord and see if Wyman wants to share it with his folks. So the first part of this, I'm going to let Jason talk poetically for a little bit while I do this.
No.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
And any poetic topics in particular you have in mind, or?
Well, we can talk about what we're going to talk about today: marketing and
Oh
around.
yeah, I suppose we can give a primer because people didn't hear our pre-conversation.
We did.
So
I hope
yeah,
they.
so as I'm sure most people here know, is our good friend over at Magic Pig Games also makes assets and regularly sells them. And most recently, if you've been watching some of the previous streams, there has been some production on some particularly shiny new tools. And the question came up, what do you do to market a developer tool? Because it is slightly different. If you're marketing assets, it's a little bit easier visually speaking because it's shiny toys. People like looking at shiny toys. You have to give a much stronger value proposition, I find, for tools. Developers are a lot more picky about what they will or will not add to their projects. And so the question becomes, what do we do and how do you approach it? And yeah, thought we'd back and forth that and give some feedback on approaches we could take.
That is true. You do not lie. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. I posed the question right before going to bed, which was a good time to pose the question because there was a wall of text I got to read this morning. Very helpful text from Jason and someone else as well about, all right, I've got this game modules product. It's been out for a while, but it's coming out with a major upgrade. Major upgrade means brand new SKU. It's going to break projects. It's that kind of major upgrade. It's basically reinventing it from mostly the ground up. I want it to be successful. I also know for me how powerful it is for my own games, how like with Legend of the Stones, a large RPG, how it's going to speed up everything. But I also know that it can help out lots of other people. So the big question I posed was actually let me just refresh my memory on the exact language I posed because I think that would be helpful. I asked, I want to make sure people know it's well documented. And then that's an interesting question too, because it was pointed out, how do I know it's well documented? And that's a good question. I don't. I want people to know that it's got a ton of tutorials, which I still haven't made, but I will. I want people to know it's insanely powerful and easy to use. And I want people to know it works with any game genre and any game type, because, you know, when I was making it with my own RPG, a lot of people thought, oh, it's an RPG engine, something like that. And yes, but also other engines too. And I want people to know that it has the support of a good community, which is the people on the Discord. Does that about sum up your understanding of my
Yes, it also sums up that you got two responses that were pretty similar in tone, and one of them being mine. And it basically boiled down to the biggest mistake everybody makes in marketing is pitching from the perspective of what I want. It's basically, I want you to buy my thing. That's what I want you to do. And here's all of the work I put into it. Please buy it because I spent a lot of time and effort on it. And the truth is, nobody in the entire world cares. Traditionally, it comes from the perspective of what can this do for me? And so you can say the same thing, but you have to say it as a solution to a problem. You don't say it has great documentation. You say it's easy to understand, which is more from the perspective of the person. Or the example I used before with like if you're selling a car with lots of space, you don't say, look how big I made the car. You say, look how much groceries you could carry in this car, right? You're pitching it to what values they have. And I guess the point I was getting at is that even the tutorials, you're describing the kind of tutorials to make, things like setting up a stat, that's a tutorial for someone who's already bought on board. If I've decided to buy it and use it, sure, I would like a guide on how to set up stats. But if it's a question of whether I should buy it or what's important to me, I mean, if there isn't a way to set up a stat, I'd be surprised. That's not new information to me. The exact details of how, sure are, but that's not going to be a sales pitch. That's not a video that's useful to me unless I'm already in your camp. So the information that's more valuable is is the sales pitch of the promise. How fast can I do it? Is it easy to do visually? Like, could you demonstrate it in 15 or 20 seconds by clicking a few things on Unity, and I can at least get the idea that you did it quickly? I don't need to know all the details, but it's more interesting to me to see that I could go, let's make a thing with 3 stats. Click, 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 done. It's like, oh, okay, so I assume if I wanted a thing with 7 stats that do this, it would be that equally as easy. That's more information than I would get than click here, go to this menu, because now I'm following along and I'm lose interest. So the pitch is the information. The pitch isn't here's how you set it up. The pitch is look how easy it is to set up. So it's again subtle, but that's a huge difference in how people perceive that.
Yeah. So I'm hearing in a way that I'm interpreting there's two, in a way, broad types of content videos in this regard. Because I do think, as a user, tutorials are helpful because once you do buy it, it's like, well, what do I do? How do I do this? And two, it is, and love your thoughts on this. I do see it as a marketing thing, tutorial videos showing that you will be successful. Like a lot of users perhaps might come to it thinking, wow, that looks cool. I like the sizzle reel. I like the intro video, but I'm new, or it seems like there's a lot going on. Will I be able to actually make use of this? And maybe I've heard too many stories of assets on the store that are very hard to use once you open it up. That I feel like that is a marketing thing, but there is the other side of the other type of video, which is that sizzle reel type, which is essentially just showing something really pretty, really fast, really powerful, with some good background music, maybe, that shows the solution, or really the solution that demonstrates the problems that people are facing and how this is a solution to those problems.
Yeah, that is true, but I would phrase that more from the perspective of kind of broadly competency. Is people want to know that the tool is good, and they do that by you demonstrating I can make good things. I use this tool to make good things. Ergo, this tool can help you make good things, right? So I think I agree with the sentiment, but I think it comes down to like why. Like whenever someone looks at a piece of content, the question is what are they trying to get out of it? The tutorial side of stuff is useful, but like again, I guess my point is to you. If you're going to sit down and buy an asset yourself, the question becomes in what order and to how much percentage do you want to spend your time doing each step. So for you, you go to the asset store. I assume the first thing you do is type in vague words related to what you want, and you're going to skim the headlines of what's relevant roughly to the topics, and then you're going to say, cool, these 4 things promise to do the thing I need. Which one do I pick? And now you want a really quick filter. Is it one in the same Unity version / engine / visual style, whatever, cull the ones that aren't? Then what's left, is it well produced? Does it look shiny or is it not? Get rid of the ones that aren't. Does it have good ratings or whatever? And then whatever's left, you then look through it and go, will this be easy to use or will this take me a lot of time to work with? And then after all of that, you might sit down and read the documentation. So all of that other stuff is front loaded in terms of priorities for most people, I would say.
Hello, Pavel.
Hi.
What happened to your
I
hand?
think
We have to
you're-
start with that. We all saw your hand. What happened to it? What'd you do?
I played. How it's called? I played with my kid with the ball. We had some school event, and I just got the ball straight into the finger. It's just, I think, a little broken, 2 millimeters into this side of the finger.
Yikes!
Nothing terrible.
So you were playing.
But as a developer, that's your tool. That's your work tool.
But it's of all fingers though. That's the okay one. That's an okay one.
Yeah. The Control V is problematic, but I'm starting to be able to do it with other fingers.
Yeah. Well, I smashed my thumb the other day, right there, while trying to fix a bike, and it doesn't look so bad right now. But for the first 2 hours, I thought it was going to be very difficult to type with the thumb on the side. But it healed up really quickly. But yeah, nice. That's the worst. My first thought was, shit, I want to be coding. Well, I'm glad it's not terrible.
Yeah, I had I think 3 days without coding. Now I can do it. It's not a problem. I just have to wear it for about 4 more weeks. But I plan to start martial arts in 2 weeks. so that won't be that problematic.
We'll just make sure if you damage a finger, it's a different one this time because you don't hit the same one twice. So.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
long time ago, I did it to a judo class in college, and it was just to graduate. I just hadn't taken my physical education courses in my last semester, so I took two taekwondo and judo. And judo, I thought, okay, whatever, I'll learn something cool. And turns out the school I was at is the feeder school for the United States Olympics team. So their judo program is extremely hardcore, and I was not into it. I was like, I'm graduating. There's a bunch of like 19-year-old kids who are like happily throwing me around. And so when I smashed my finger in the door, which hurt a lot, and that was shitty, I asked the doctor for a splint for my finger so that I could get out of judo class.
Yeah, judo is fun.
Yeah,
I trained it also during studies.
All right. Well, that is a good. That was. I'm glad your finger's not completely amputated, and yeah. So, Pavel, we're talking about marketing assets, specifically assets, and I thought,
yeah, is that a topic you have any opinions on? Is there anything you?
No, that's not important. You can get without it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, marketing assets. It really hard stuff. Very, very hard stuff for me. Yeah. I would say a lot harder than marketing a games or similar tools. Yeah, because we are the guys that are mostly hidden from the final owners of the product that we are making. Yeah, because we are the middleman between the game developers and the players that will see and use our assets in the final version. Yeah.
When you
so one sentence, we released our assets 2.5 weeks ago, and it was 2.5 weeks of very, very hard marketing.
Okay, makes sense. That's lava asset, right?
Yeah. This one.
Yes.
Still marketing as you speak. Yeah.
Well, it's an important bit, right? I suppose. That's why we have our publisher names up in there in the titles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jason, we were talking about the difference between sizzle reels tutorials, and I completely forgot what we were exactly talking about right before Pavel joined. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think mostly we were kind of talking about what well, specifically I was saying when you're trying to figure out how much resources to put where, you have to figure out who your audience is. And I guess people who have bought into what you've got will be slightly more patient for documentation and things than the people who, if they don't like the look of what your sizzle reel looks like, they're gone. They're not gonna. People don't care beyond that point. So I was just saying that from the resource perspective, to me, getting across a very clear indication of what your thing can do and how it can help them is number one, the most important thing. Because once if someone is sold that this will solve their problem, they are much more likely to invest time in learning your thing to solve their problem. Not always, but I mean, they're more invested, as opposed to if they're not sold that it even will help solve their problem. So I was just saying that when you're figuring out where to go, starting with here's how to set up a stat, to me, that's a turn off of an asset, not a turn on. If the first video tutorial I see on an asset is a 20-minute guide from the creator going, right, so you click here and you drag a prefab, you do this, I'm like, why? Like, I have to already know I want this in my project to bother watching 15 minutes of why and how I add it to my project. And so that first bit is vitally important.
I think it depends on the asset, yeah? So for the lava asset, as it's two things, yeah? It's one thing, it's graphics, lots and lots of graphics. Second, it's tools that you can use with them. So when we are marketing for this one, we are focusing first on the look, because most people, even on asset store, buy what they see and what is shiny. Yeah. And then they are checking if there's another tool. But if you're just selling tool, for example, our WordStreamer tool, it's a tool. Yeah. So most people, before they buy WordStreamer, are going to our Discord or are writing mail. How does it work? Can I use it in this solution? And so on. Yeah. So most people that buy this solution first want to ask, can I use it and how can I use it quickly? Even though I think we have about 10 videos about what's teamwork working, about 2-3 hours of tutorials for it, the people are still just going and asking us. Yeah, but I would agree that it's important to showcase quickly and fast what you can use the tool and how you can use it quickly. Yeah, for example, we have our video for lava environment, and it's first, I would say 3 minutes of it is just showcasing all the different environments you can do with it. For example, this one that you can see behind me, or this one, and so on and so on. And then we have at the end quickly 1 minute of speed going through developing some simple terrain, painting it, adding some lakes, and etc. That showcases how this looks. Yeah. So we are doing what you said. We are first showcasing what you can do with it. Then we are quickly showcasing you how you can do it. And if you buy the asset, if you want to use it, then, or if you want more information, then you can go to our other videos that are showcasing the exact tutorials, which are more problematic than you think, because first tutorial we always have to do is how to import our asset into built-in HDRP and URP, because this is the most problematic thing for people. Not using the asset, but importing it into Unity with the version that they need. Yeah.
So that's an interesting question. The pivot, I suppose, right, between sizzle reel, marketing sizzle reel, and tutorial reel. And we did talk before you joined, Pavel, about what exactly is the amount of, hey, there are a lot of tutorials available. That's part of the marketing, because that is a product feature. I think education on and documentation is a product feature as much as a support system. What's that pivot look like for you between here's a sizzle reel and here's like the confidence boost that if you're worried, oh, that looks really cool, but I don't know if I can even use it, I'm new to Unity.
Yeah. So for us, as we are quite we used asset store and we are selling the assets for quite some time. Yeah, we are always know how to do it. So our first focus is making UX and experience with our assets as simple and as quick as possible. Adding river with lava river or something for our assets has to be. I select asset, I add asset with 1 click, and I add 2 clicks, 3 clicks to the scene, and you have delivered or something like that. Yeah, it has to be quick. You take a 3D model, you put it on the scene, it works. For us, it has to be. So we are focusing in most of our tutorials showcasing this, but only in this short video tutorial at the end of the promotional trailer videos. Yeah. Then we are mostly looking at teaching people two things. One people thing is teaching people who are new to Unity how to import the asset and how to quickly use it for simple things. Second one is going in deeper and showcasing all the possibilities, all the features that you want in this version. We mostly do it in two ways. One is giving them, I think there's but done 1 hour long tutorial with all the aspects that you want to need. You don't have to go through all of it. Yeah, it's split into sections. You can just jump to the section that you need and the question that you have, and then we are splitting this big video and posting on the other social medias, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitter, just snippets of this video that showcase specific problem. But mostly, I would say trailer was done in about 2 to 3 weeks. Tutorial was done in 3 days. That's mostly difference between 1 hour video that takes week to 3 days. This time we were made it in 3 days, and the 4 minutes video that we are that you can see here, especially the quick going through, took us about 3 weeks.
Yeah. And it looks like tutorial content. So you are advertising tutorial content, I would say, you're showing that, and that comes in 3 minutes into a 4-minute video.
Yeah. So first part is just showcasing for people that just want to see what this asset is. Yeah. So selling it through eyes. And then if somebody has time and wants to watch to it, then we are just adding the tutorial part to showcase quickly how you can do it. Yeah, because most people won't see it, this part. Most people will stay at the part that they are just looking how fun it is.
Yeah.
If you added this at the beginning, most people would jump out after a few seconds.
So, what are your thoughts, both of you, on showcasing that excitement, the pretty stuff that's here at the beginning, with a product that is not itself visual, that itself is just not visual?
Well, for me at least, I always go back to use cases. I think at any point a person has a particular thing in their head, and if you're good at putting yourself in their head at the time that they see your content, you can tailor the best content to them. And so the life cycle of a person looking at your stuff is there's either someone who specifically typed in stats into Unity Asset Store with an intent of finding stats, at which case they're not looking to be visually wowed. They're looking for, does this do what I need? Or there's somebody who you're marketing to directly and stumbling across what you're doing, and they want to know, should I care even what this is? Should I watch the rest of this video? I don't even know what it is yet. And so to me, it's that. It's the one is the person you're currently showing it to, somebody who's already predisposed to like looking for a stat asset. If that's the case, the opening gambit of what you should show is, again, how quick is the setup, which again goes back to what Paul was saying. Drives me insane when I watch a video and you watch somebody open a new scene, type in add component, and like search for their own component names in a list, and it's like, I've never even used your asset and you're expecting me to know the names of the components that you've named in your asset. It's like there should be a your studio drop down, go, whatever that is, or there should be some prefab in a folder I drop in and start. Because in order, it should be, why do I care? Then quick start. What is the least amount of steps I need to do to get started? I call this the batteries included option. There should be the opening scene, the default prefab, whatever it is that you can go drop, play, look. Okay, there's toys. Pull those sliders, press the randomize button, which I think is the best feature you ever added to any of your stuff, is the demo randomize button, because at a glance, it's like, cool. I don't know what size I want the horns for this creature yet, but I know it's an option now just at a glance that if I do decide to tweak that, I can. So in order for me, it would be literally open a video and it shows, drop in, cool scene, fly a timeline camera, and then zoom to the sidebar, show someone tweaking stats, press play again, 2 new bars show up with different stats on it, press some buttons, the stats go down. I can see what it is, what it's doing, how easy it is to modify, and then swipe the screen, go to Unity, and then bring up your documentation and say, does these documentation value... So in order, the video does all three. It hits, look at this shiny thing, look how quick it is set up, look what it does, look how easy it is to modify, followed by, if you're still here, here's the rest of the information you might care about, documentation and value add and so on.
Well, problem solved.
Yeah, for me, I mostly look at like on the tools asset, on the ones that don't have graphics. I try to look at them as games. What you have to do to sell game, you have to have 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay at the beginning that hooks up the player. Yeah, and it has to be quick, it has to be soft, and you have to get them quickly and profoundly to it. So this is how we mostly focus on our tool assets. You just have to be able to do simple cases in few seconds. Some advanced cases can take hours. I can, if I can, showcase Unity. Open window. Unity.
Yeah, like what you're doing that. Pro Builder is my favorite example of this. Pro Builder, there's a load of like 30-second demos that show you placing cubes and scaling them, but then they had an entire series that was like 4 hours long, where they built E1 M1 level, and I was like, I could just watch as the person who built it used it in front of me, and I could see how to get the most out of it. But that didn't sell me. Like I said, I was already sold. It's like only when I'm already using the thing do I now want to sit down and really dive into how it works. And so they're completely different parts of the process to me.
Yeah, exactly. For the asset to showcase, you have to, but to be able to market it this way, you first have to think about the UX on the asset side. Yeah. So the marketing starts not when you're making the marketing material, the trailers, everything. It starts when you're thinking about your asset and how you want to handle it. For example, we have empty scene here. Yeah. So lava asset and the ram asset was thought out this way that you create a terrain or any other surface, you click add river, you add river, and mostly in the Unity built-in, this is it. In Unity HDRP, you just take what kind of river you want to have. Done. Everything is done. You don't need anything more. You have already used that asset and you already can have a river. Most people, when I showcase it, they are just starting and having fun. Can I make it a little bigger? And they're just using standard Unity tools because these are just standard Unity tools that you
Yeah.
have here to have fun with it. Oh, scaling works, rotating works, etc. So you hook up people with I clicked here, I clicked 3 times on the asset, and this is working river or the working load. Then you just have to check if you want to add some material to it or just you want to use add Reddit prefabs from here. You can just drag and drop, and that's it, nothing more. And if you have a tool that you can showcase, you should have something like that. It can be not the most important thing in your asset, not the most important tool in your asset, but you have to have tool that you can showcase that helps people do something quickly and easily. And then you can showcase him to all the parameters that you have, all the amazing additional things that you can do, but that's learning, learning curve that you have to do for them. The word streamer mostly has the same thing. You can split scene and prepare the basic version of streaming in about 10 clicks. But if you want to release a game with it, you have to spend hours and hours checking and optimizing it.
Yeah. Quick Start is something I haven't yet built, but is on the to-do list probably actually this weekend, since it's a long weekend for us in the United States of America and Canada. I found out. Good job, them too. Yeah, it definitely is a challenge to demonstrate a non-visual product to people who as we all are visual. We're all visual, and we all judge books by their cover. And that's a huge challenge for tools.
Yeah, but you can always use some assets that are visual together with this tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so you can have something that's visual on the scene. Meanwhile, you're doing something different.
So that was one of the things that we talked about before the stream, Jason, on showcasing the tool with other, attractive assets, basically showing a variety of assets and a variety of things. Now,
I believe I said I think it's a mistake to only advertise with stuff you can include. I know it sounds like heresy to say that, but I think if you have to do a demo, you should put your best foot forward and do the shiniest demo you can. You can always put a disclaimer and say, this also uses this asset pack. Feel free to buy that yourself. But you're better off doing that than you are using like cubes and boxes, because if it looks visually underwhelming, people don't care. Like, it has to look, you have to say, this is what you could achieve. With best case scenario, this is what you could achieve. If you show something that looks like a Unity prototype game jam, people are going to walk away going, "Oh, so this will get you as far as a game jam." It's like, no, I'm just showing you this. No, that's how people will perceive it. So you have to make it look like you would assume a finished product would look.
Yeah. I think if you want to look up the warp imagination, yeah, David does the same thing when he's showcasing videos on YouTube. Yeah, he has his own tools, but he has always some great assets in the background that he showcases on.
Yeah. So where is the line then between content that you can download without buying another thing and content that looks the prettiest?
The cynical, truthful answer is the line is how much money you want to make. Like, to be brutally honest, the fact is, the more visually impressive something is, the more eyeballs you get, and it comes down to seats. Once you get someone in the door, the shiny thing will get people in the door. You can then be as honest as you like once they're in the door, but if they don't come in the door, it doesn't matter what pitch you're making. So the truth is, the answer is always make it as impressive as you possibly can, and then you can dole out as much like, well, actually, no, I can't include that, or here's how you get that, or whatever else you want later. But if you start by trying to be too honest, that's like going an interview and saying, oh, by the way, I probably drink too much. Anyway, let's start the interview. Like, that's not, you don't want to start with like damping expectations, right? You want to start with the best foot forward and then bring in the rest of the stuff later.
Yeah, but I would add one more thing. Choose what people buy most on the, for example, on the asset store. Because if many people that want to use your tool already have these assets in their asset, if they bought that already, and that's big chance if you check which assets are popular, which assets were bought during last sales, and lots of people bought them, then it's chance people have them. So, hey, oh, I have that already, so I can use my tools with that asset. Yeah. So I would say for realistic use, for low
That's a good
poly,
point. I
use
didn't even think of
polygon,
that.
use
Yeah.
center,
Yeah.
use malberts, all similar things in the background. Because, or if you're showcasing RPG, use Infinity PBR assets in the background, because people, if they have them, they can see that this tool works with the most popular asset on the asset store. If you want full nice triple A nature asset, use NatureManufacture or similar stuff. Yeah, use stuff for background that you can take from asset store, and that's popular because most people, not because it's popular, but because most people who will have it, and most people will be accustomed to using it. So they, when they take your tool and they see this tool works with the asset that I have, then it's better. So, for example, make one demo with NatureManufacture's asset, make second demo with Infinity PBR, make third one with Synthes assets, so people can see variety of assets that tool can be used with.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about, but and I would see myself. I keep forgetting. Yeah, I have a ton of assets I've bought that I don't really use that much, and so I would probably have thought the same thing. I'd be like, oh, I actually have that asset. I can try that out, or check if I have that asset. So
Or
that's a really
even
good.
better, even better, if you're releasing an asset and that's humble bundle sale with some nice looking assets there, check that there will be few thousands of people that just bought those assets and don't know what to do with them. And if you're showcasing your tool with them, they have, oh, I have this asset. Maybe if I buy this, I can use something with them.
That is what I did with this package. You might remember, Pavel. This is the medieval town village, and it features NatureManufacture heavily in the trees and this river here. And I also feature the Ivy, Real Ivy 2 from another publisher, and there's sounds and fires as well. And it presents much nicer with all that, because without the river and without these trees, it's just a building, which isn't as fun. I guess it's the post-purchase downside is when people say, "Hey, everything's where's the river?" And I have to tell them, remind them that, oh, that's the river package.
That's always problematic. We also have problems that we showcase one asset and there are several other in the video. So we are always have to be careful with the information on the video, information in the asset, that we are using some other assets that you can use with it.
Well, but that comes down to, I think, again, this is just the way I approach it, is you do want to be honest, but you have to go by, again, order of who's of the kind of person looking at your content. So the first one is someone wants to be sold. Once they're sold, if they're about to buy it and they want to know what is or isn't included, if you've got a fly out near the end of the video that says this scene use these assets, you've not lied. You've included the information, and if they want to do due diligence beforehand, it's there in the video to check. And if you write it in the description, it's there. It's only somebody who's, and if someone just buys it on a whim, then sure. But the truth is, like, again, I think you're giving people the right information to make the decision, but it's not your job to cell limitations, right? It's kind of like, imagine the difference of someone releasing a Unity game and the first scene that shows up is a list of all the assets they used to make it. It would cheapen the product, regardless of whether the product's good or not, because it would sell an implication of, oh no, I didn't make this, I just glued stuff together. Even if those assets only represented 4% of the game, if you front load the implication that you use these things to make it, you're kind of underselling the work you actually did do. So I'm not saying you don't include it, but I'm saying very firmly, it's the kind of thing that sits near the end as a, oh, and by the way, before you press the buy button, just a caveat, be aware, it has these things, you'll have to pick those up yourself, but I'm showing you what you could do with this setup.
Yeah, but you always have to include it and check if people will see it if they look slowly. Yeah, because it can be problematic then later. Yeah, we have, for example, we have an autumn valley. It's asset that requires and has dependencies on 3 of our assets. And we have about 10 people that bought it and didn't have the other assets. Even though we have packet dependencies, the first thing in the description is saying, check this thing. Yeah, if you scroll down, you see there's packet dependencies show closed. Yeah, this is one, but there's also package dependencies that would L2 higher. Yeah, just above description.
Oh, this one. Do you mean the one that I just missed when I was scrolling?
Yeah, but this one, if you don't have it bought and you are trying to buy this asset, you need to asset store showcases you window that tells. So you don't have all of these assets. Are you sure? And what is funny, people, even though the people bought it, that didn't have the assets, and we're asking why it's empty. Yes, so always remember that you have to give some information about it. But Jason said, I agree. You should give it at the end, in video at the end, and in the description and in the assets. It's not one of the most important things, but you should give information in the video, this and this. There's assets that are from this and this publisher. Yeah,
makes sense to me.
Something that Nathan said is actually a big point for me too, personally, which is it comes down to that idea of quality. Is if someone's made a custom inspector, they cared enough to make a custom inspector. From a user experience perspective, if I see that it's got a custom tool, it means they actually care enough for me to be able to use it appropriately. Whenever I see an asset and it cuts to somebody who's just stacked 12 booleans and a bunch of values and sliders, and they haven't even put a range attribute on top of the attribute, so I don't even know what a good value is. Is this between 0 and 100 or 0 and 10,000? I don't know. You didn't tell me. I'll never buy an asset that does that. I always need to see an indication that the person giving it to me wants me to succeed with the asset, and you do that by demonstrating some level of control over customizing the assets. But again, you have that, so that's no problem. I guess the point here is make sure to definitely highlight that. Like in my head, the trailer for this goes fancy scene, slide in inspector, show tweaking values in a custom inspector, slide out inspector, show scene changed, move around, scene changed. That's such a feedback loop of thing, modify, back to thing. Look how easy I made it.
Yeah. That's custom inspectors are very, very important. And the poorest thing, we can't use Odin to make them.
Yeah, although I have no problem with that. I make all of my own custom stuff too, so that doesn't bother me. But yeah, I think I was saying this on the Game Dev show 2 weeks ago. I'm on my first client project where someone else added Odin, and now I'm like, oh, this is so much easier than all the stuff I've been adding to my own scripts. I wish I had this more often, but I've been doing it. I can still do it myself. It's just I now realize how much work I've been repeating for myself that I didn't have to.
Yeah. I've still not used Odin for that reason, because everything I do, I expect I'll be distributing at some point, so I just can't do it. That's still also the reason why I never use the latest LTSs until 2 years later. I'm always 2 years behind everyone.
We don't have such possibility.
I know. I remember you showing us the sea of installations of Unity versions you had before. Yeah.
The second, I would say we have from seconds to minutes before somebody asks us if it works with the LTS that was just the list on Discord. That's the mostly amount of time that we have. To be truthful, the earliest was just seconds after Unity publicly showcased the new LTS on the web page. We already had a question on Discord. Can you, if someone use it with the LTS? I didn't even know that there was the new LTS. It was that fastly released.
My question is, does it work with next year's LTS?
No, we are mostly saying no betas, no alphas, and we are just standing our ground out. No, if it's beta, it's alpha. It's on your. You have to do it yourself.
It's completely irrational, I think, to support alphas and betas of a product that you know are probably going to change at some point, especially since even the end users should really not be using those for their projects that they're working on. That's the whole point. You can play with it, you can try it, you can explore it, but don't bring your project into that. Seems dangerous. Yeah. Well, cool. That's I've got a lot of work cut out for me, I think. And like
yeah, I was going to say the other part too with documentation. I know you said you're looking into the quick start guide, but this is the other thing that again I strongly recommend whenever you sit down to do this stuff, try not to look at it from a producer, try to look at it from a consumer perspective, especially with documentation, because what a lot of people do is they go to the documentation and it starts out with either a sales pitch, so it's like reminder of the stuff that they bought, which audiobooks do this all the time. The first 40 minutes of every audiobook is look how great this audiobook is, and it's like, yeah, I bought it already, can you now give me the book that I bought? It drives me insane. The second part is it's a list of all the features. Now that's cool, but nobody cares about a list of all the features. They just bought the thing and they're like, how am I going to learn about the features? I'm going to play with it. That's what I want to do. I want to learn by playing. So the very first thing should be, here is the least number of steps required to give you a thing you can press play on that does roughly the basics of what this does. So whatever the start scene is, whatever the start prefab is, there should be 3 clicks or something and go, and here's the demo scene, go play with it. And then once you play with it, it should show 3 or 4 things and then link to, here's more details on each of the things you're now playing with.
So what you're saying is what we need is quick start right at the top.
Very top. So the very first thing I look for in any documentation. It's like, okay, I just bought this thing. I know nothing about it. I'm not going to read 500 pages of documentation just yet. How do I press play? How do I like check if this 1 works in my project and 2, if it's cool? What does it do? And so that's the very first thing I want to do.
There we go. I even put an emoji right there. So that's going to increase click conversion. So yeah, this will be coming soon then. Look at that. This is my documentation site, by the way. I use Gitbook and I really like the way Gitbook works. And I just add all these pretty headers to each of these sections, thanks to Midjourney, because that's the world we live in now. And yes, I have to say, writing documentation is a great way to kind of figure out where things can be improved, to figure out where you're missing something, to catch a few bugs here and there. But it's also extremely time consuming.
Yeah, I would add one more thing about documentation. That's not about documentation. In your asset, in the main window, add button that opens the documentation. And second button that opens tutorials.
Oh, okay.
So people don't have to look for your tutorials or your manual.
I do this on every project I join. In fact,
and one more thing, add FAQ or tips button into the main window. Many people, I will just hook up quickly to the RAM. Many people ask us, why do we have all these 3 buttons here? But to be truthful, so many people have problems with finding them. That's insane.
I do have a link to documentation now. Jason Storey actually helped me with some code to get the official docs link into the documentation too, which is very, very nice. but also a link to tutorials makes a lot of sense too. To have even though you could get there's going to be a tutorials link, just like the quick start. There's going to be a tutorials thing, but even though it's a 2-click thing, making it a 1-click thing makes a lot.
And I would add one thing: video tutorials. If you're making them on YouTube, create a list and make the link to the list. Because if you make some new tutorials, you just add them to the list. You don't have to change anything in the code. Yeah.
Makes
If
sense.
you do some quick snippets, something like that, you just add them that. And I would add tips or fact also as just text in the UI. Yeah, you click it and you have some quick text that you don't have to go to documentation or something like that.
Okay.
And you can also you can use your audience for that, as in if you're having a frequently asked questions section, then literally keep track of questions. Once you release your asset, you're going to get questions, and so you can make your own life easier by just taking the most commonly asked questions and actually putting them into that portion. I've seen a lot of people do it as a web page where they'll have some website where they'll manage this, and then they will host the web page in a frame in something. That way, as they get more questions and stuff in, they can modify it without having to redo the asset or whatever. But whichever way you want to do it's fine. It just comes down to you do want a way for people to specifically get the things that are going to be a pain in the ass for you personally, because it's like you don't want to be spending time managing the same repeated questions over and over.
Yeah, that makes sense. So frequently asked questions shouldn't just be a marketing thing, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, gentlemen, I have to go back to the day job, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to call this one a stream, but I have to say thank you for joining. I'm glad I was able to get this restream working. Last time I haven't customized it. As you can see, I still got the logo up there, and there's zero customizations. I don't think I have a nice Sizzle ending or anything like that. So I need to figure out how to add some cool customizations to it. But
well, as someone who used to be a voice in the small corner of your room, I appreciate having actual presence on screen this time. So it's an improvement.
That's true. That's true. You were always very small in the corner. But a big personality for such a small window in the corner.
True.
So, yeah. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks you for joining. Don't forget to check out. I don't have anything in the links. I don't think in the description down below. In fact, the description down below is from who knows how long ago. It's just whatever was. If there's anything in the description down below, I didn't even check. Is there anything? Nope. Nope.
We stream and we're making code.
Yeah, we stream when we're making code, making art, making games. So clearly, as you can tell, this was a last-minute stream. So don't check the links in the because the only link is to restream. So don't look at the links below. Instead, come to the Game Dev Show. I think maybe tomorrow if it happens, or next week, and join Storey at his link that's not there. Check out Pawel on the Asset Store. Check out infinitypbr.com in the Asset Store. And yeah, have a great night, everybody, or day.
Bye.